Guess what time it is? That's right. It's game week. We officially are off of our bye week and we face the Iowa State Cyclones this morning. Truth be told, it's kind of a boring week. I mean, even game day is choosing to bypass Ohio State and Penn State because they expect Penn State to lose to Ohio State in double digits. Weeks like this, oftentimes you have to watch out for because usually you're already looking ahead towards the rest of the season and circling the bigger games at this point. For OU would be like Baylor or Oklahoma State. But with how poorly OU has done this season, it's big brain mode that you can't be snake bitten if the expectations and the bar are already so low at this point. Regardless, we're here because regardless of how the season has gone from our expectations, hey, football only happens a couple short weeks a year, and you only get to play the Iowa State Cyclones one time a year, regardless if it's here or there. Regardless, we are officially still in the downhill stretch of the season. A lot has happened in the season from game to game, from UTEP to Texas at this point. We've had a lot of peaks and valleys. We've had a lot of highs and lows. While OU has had some breathing room with the victory over Kansas at home a couple weeks ago, as well as coming off the bye week, the question still remains: can you find a way to make it to a 7-5 to get a winning season, or at minimum 6-6, so you're not a losing season? You're at 4 W's right now, and you still have 5 games to do so. One of these games right now happening today being one of those games that look winnable. Let's be honest though. OU and Iowa State both had their bye weeks this week, so the advantage that the bye week would usually give OU is basically null and void at this point. For OU, the only thing that is a note that I know I'm aware of is Billy Bowman's going to be out, unless that's a game time decision. Billy Bowman will not play today. He's probably expected back for the Baylor game. For Iowa State, the story about them is they are just completely a night and day team under Matt Campbell. You really don't even know what team you're getting at this point. Depending on, speaking of that, depending on who you ask, whether it be the fans or the beat writers, some thought Iowa State was legitimately a contender for the Big 12 title, while others thought they were going to be in the back half of the conference due to how many players they lost to the draft. I'll let you figure out who said what. But the big story about Iowa State is they are like Iowa. They have a world beater defense, but they can't cross the 50-yard line to score touchdowns. AKA, they're very, very one trick ponies, as the only player worth anything on their team is Xavier Hutchinson. They just cannot score. So when Iowa State is on offense, despite their inability to score, as I just mentioned, Hutchinson is still the number one or the number 8 wide receiver in the nation, even in the Big 12, in receiving. Deckers, their QB, is also kind of a mixed bag. When he throws, he's third in the Big 12 with a 67.7% completion rate with those quick short yardage throws with some TDs to his name. If you look at the stat sheet, he has the same amount of TDs as Dylan. The opposite side of it, though, is reason being Dylan missed out on a game. Same thing with Daniels from Kansas. So as a result, Deckers would probably be a couple of spots lower as otherwise. The other reason why is they have a shaky O line and he gets sacked a lot. So his numbers are not impressive because they just don't give him time to throw. The other player I would circle on their offense is Brock. Brock is a solid running back who averages about 5 yards a carry. But again, that's only the middle of a pack with the Big 12, and he doesn't make it into the end zone. Um, the other side of it is with Deckers to Xavier Hutchinson. The reason why he has all the short yardage passes, and to Hutchinson's credit, he's getting all this with what he's working with. Um, Deckers is not throwing the ball. He's not getting any of those explosive bombs or anything. They're very, very short, developing yards after reception plays. The biggest takeaway, honestly, is they gain a lot of yards, but they do not get first downs and they do not make it into the end zone. That's not the case for their defense. Defense is a top 10 defense. 4 of their guys are in the top 10 for total tackles for the Big 12. One of the notable ones is Anthony Johnson Jr. McDonald can make it into the backfield as he has several sacks to his name this year. And they do somewhat force turnovers. The numbers are skewed for it as they do. It's like 13-14 of what they give away versus what they've gotten. But again, you're still getting to the backfield for it. in my opinion. It's why the sickos like the Iowa State game this year. It's all defense, and you hope for a pulse on offense just to do something. It's still a little surprising to me that, and maybe not, that Iowa State was able to beat Iowa, because you have to imagine it's like the OU and Nebraska scenario. How bad is Iowa for Iowa State to beat them? So, keys to the game, though. Let's get right into that, because I have a lot of keys to this game. You'll laugh, but the big, most important key to this game is with this game being at 11 o'clock a.m. on a Saturday and not the initial night game on a Thursday in Ames is a win on its own. Weird stuff happens in Ames at night, and I just feel like you're just it's bad juju if we're playing on the weekend at night, especially during Halloween. Just saying, it's just asking for trouble. 11 a.m., boring morning, I will take it. And it's a little bit of karma, as Iowa State was really poking a lot of fun at us complaining about the 11 a.m. games. Who has the 11 a.m.s now, guys? Regardless, moving on to the the players. This is going to boil down to the OU defense versus the Iowa State offense. Which is going to actually break first? Because OU has struggled with teams with any type of pulse on their defense. The biggest thing, though, their defense is still middle of the pack with the red zone. Again, they cannot, or their offense is middle of the pack with the red zone. They cannot score. Who's going to show up? What defense is going to show up, guys? Is it going to be the first 3 games, or the game that, as despite what the score says, Kansas, or is it going to be the blowout games? Will the defense make Deckers look very incompetent, or are they going to make him look like a Heisman candidate? This also goes for the O line. Are we going to see last week where they look competent, or some of the weeks where we have struggled? It's very much what team is going to show up and play. What progress are we going to see? Are we still going to be inconsistent, or are we finally going to see some steps taking forward to making them back to competence again? Speaking of offense as well, isolate Hutchinson. He's their only best player on their team. Double team him, whatever you can do. I think once you do that, you're going to slow them down immediately for it, and just make them kind of do the same thing they have done all year, is not score. Additionally, get ready to play all 4 downs. Can our defense get off the field by pressuring the O line? Um, to me, if OU can score 14 early, I think if you secure that lead, even 21, it will be difficult for Iowa State to catch up. I don't expect this to be a shootout game. Now, how OU has walked into every game has been basically roll the dice, we'll see what I'll get, or spin the magic wheel of destiny. Who knows? But I do think if we're taking just the law of averages, if they get up to 21 early, they should be able to take care of business. I also think too it's less impactful right now as the season goes on, but their secondary is still very, very young, and I do think we have the talent to overpower them with Mims, Weiss, Farouk, and Willis. Again, their secondary is just There are also too just things to keep in mind as well. You got to be on your A game. They're not a very penalized team, and they definitely sit on the ball. In short, you cannot leave points on the field because they are going to exploit that. And finally, this goes without stating, but if OU is in the Big 12 for a couple more years, this game and probably 2024 will be the last time they face each other at Ames. So you should expect their A game at this point. The other thing that just came to me as well with the Iowa State, at least from a limited film I have seen, also does not abuse the seams. They don't do the things that people have been exploiting with OU this year. So I think that's also going to serve to OU's advantage. So my prediction for this game is I do think OU is going to win, despite some of my earlier stuff earlier in the season, little meltdown from it. But I do think OU is going to win 34-17. Obviously, OU would cover the spread at that point. I just think that OU has better talent than Iowa State does. And with Iowa State's lack of ability to score, despite OU's struggles on defense, I do think the defense is going to look better today. And I do think they are going to be a trouble for the Iowa State offense as well. So that's all I got, guys. Boomer Sooner, only one. Let's go beat the Cyclones, and let's just bring a win home. That's all I ask. Bring a win home. Bring a win home. Boomer Sooner.